welcome to our parent booster session for this month. And I want to thank David for doing this, putting this together yet again. And as we look at the timing here, it is almost November. It is we're wrapping up marching seasons, getting close to probably championships for state, and I know some of the big national competitions as well. And Thanksgiving is a month that we celebrate Thanksgiving. And what is Thanksgiving but being grateful and sharing gratitude? And so, our topic tonight is developing that mindset of gratitude. So, David, you and I've talked a little bit over the past, couple weeks and shared some ideas and topics and thoughts. But I'm going to let you get rolling because you have so much more wealth of knowledge to share with us. And as I shared as we are getting started, you're rubbing off very well on me, and I look forward to sharing some of the things that you and I talked about as we go through this. So let's develop that mindset of gratitude.
Yeah, let's jump in on that. And TJ was just saying, I hadn't heard this analogy, but it's awesome and it's very fitting. He said if we jump in with a bunch of Booster Club officers and whatnot into an elevator, we're going to do one of two things. We're going to lift everybody up to a higher floor, or we're going to take everybody down and hang out in the basement. Right? It kind of seems the way it goes sometimes, isn't it? So we want to just talk about and think about as we get to this. I think the theme of gratitude is a topic for any time, but we need those little triggers to help us remember and to think about it. So now's the perfect time because we want to be proactive leaders, right? We don't want to think about being grateful the Friday night before we're out for the week of Thanksgiving and then go, oh yeah. And so I just want to kind of share some ideas and thoughts regarding the mindset of gratitude. And for me, I think of it, it's really just human nature. It's so easy to call out those things that we see as wrong, or we see as a misfire, or something that didn't happen the way it should have in our perspective, right? It's always our lens. Who deems what's right, what's the way it should have been, right? Just because it's the way it's always been doesn't mean it's the way it always needs to be. But it's just human nature for all of us to just quickly jump to, well, that's not right, or that's whatever, rather than looking at things from a fresh lens of, is it right, or what could it be? And so a good friend of mine, Matthew Arau, with Upbeat Leadership, he has a great book out there called Upbeat. And so it talks about a variety of mindsets as part of his contribution into what we're all talking about. And he has a great quote. He says, when we create a habit of adopting an attitude of gratitude, we become more aware of the things that we appreciate. And so I just find that in my own life, when I feel like I'm obsessing over because I'm like OCD and I want everything to be perfect. I'm a control freak, band director, perfectionist. And so when I find myself being stressed out about something, I just try to take a pause and think, okay, I just need to think about the things for which I'm thankful, what's going right. I want to focus what's going right now. And whether that's your kids, whether it's our classroom kids, whether it's the people on your committee that you're serving with, on your booster board, there's just always going to be people who are naysayers. People are going to go straight to the heart of what's wrong. And we want to evaluate. We want to be analytical. We want to identify areas where we can improve. But see, that right there in of itself is a good phrase, isn't it? Does it have to be something we're doing wrong, or is it an opportunity for something that we can improve? Another good friend of mine talks about with his students, and when we're dealing with SLAM, the Servant Leadership Association with Music, and part of our crafting culture discussions this summer, he said in his classroom, he tries not to talk about things in terms of you did this right, you did this wrong. He talks about, let's give a couple of props on the things that went well. That might be our gratitude. I'm really appreciative that you did this and that your sound was this way. And then he says, now to level up, okay, what do teenagers do? They play a bunch of video games, right? So to take it to the next level, consider trying this. I just love that because it's that mindset of keeping in a positive frame. And then as we think about it in terms of gratitude, I'm really appreciative, or I'm really thankful, or I really like. There's different ways to say that, but it's really in the framework of gratitude. I like what you did with this committee and how your team really developed that really in depth. And that was really well done. You know, I'd like to really look at maybe how we can expand it into this area too, right? That's an opportunity. So we have the choice, right? We can obsess, like I often do, about what's not, or we can appreciate what is and work to level up with a positive framework. You know, another way, a lot of people say, well, it's the whole grass is greener, right? We can't do this, or well, our booster club could raise that gazillion dollars if we could. Yeah, don't get caught up in that, right? There's always something better, at least from the outside looking in, right? That's why it's the grass is always greener somewhere else, but yet we all got grass. And so, how much are we working to nurture it? We kind of forget that our neighbor next door spends several hours a week out there taking care of it, nurturing it, and doing and whatever. Well, same thing with programs, same thing with booster clubs. There's a reason that concession stand at that school is amazing and doing all these wonderful things because they've asked the right questions over the years. And maybe we just need to start not talking about what we're doing wrong, but hey, I'm really thankful that we made this much money doing this. What could we do to level up? Well, you could go back and listen to last month's ideas and TJ's great information about how to get points of sales and do some different apps to help us in the concession stand to make things run more efficiently and take care of the money time element. And we do that element of it, then the back end of what we do after we sell everything is easier. Okay, lots of different things, right? So appreciate what is, and then let's elevate the positive of how we take things to the next level. So, and we also talk about this in the Strategic Booster Academy of how do we create win-win sustainable leadership. We've talked about this cycle process, and what we want to focus on obviously is the latter stage, that stage E, where we express appreciation and reward the efforts of the team. As we're developing a mindset of gratitude, I think it's really important that we develop an intentionality in being appreciative and an intentionality of elevating others. And that doesn't mean we don't analyze where we need to get better, but how we do it, how we communicate it makes all the difference. You know, isn't it interesting when something gets shared with your student that feels a little critical at school, you get all defensive about, well, aren't they noticing that they're doing this and doing this and doing this? How come they're just talking about that? Well, maybe we should take that same mindset when we work with our colleagues in our volunteer organization. Yeah. I see TJ smiling. Yeah. Okay. So as we think about that, let's focus on ways that we can be intentional in our expression with our mindset of gratitude moment. So I've shared this with you before, if you've been with us in some of it, that there's a great book that I think lends ourselves to the mindset of gratitude. And Chapman talks about 5 love languages, and I convolute it probably, but for me, I think of it in the context that, well, I'm going to think about gratitude, I'm going to think about appreciation, and appreciation kind of fits into that, how we feel loved and respected and valued and all of that. So to me, the valuable tool for me and my booster club, and we started talking about this, is just to identify, hey, just like people like to receive information in a specific way, whether it's email or texting or a phone call. We all have preferences of music. I like contemporary, I like classical, I like country, I like, you know, we all have our preferences of what we have on our devices and what we listen to. So likewise, when it comes to speaking to the heart and sharing expression and gratitude, we have different receptors, if you will. And interestingly enough, in his research, he shares that we also have ways that we send and communicate to others how we appreciate, love, care for, care about. And they aren't always the same. Very interesting to me. So the 5 areas are words of affirmation, okay? Being appreciative, affirming. Then there's acts of service, doing things for others. Then there's receiving gifts. then spending quality time, and then physical touch. Now, the physical touch one is kind of a little difficult sometimes in a public school setting and that kind of thing. But from the adults, you can high five, you can give a pat on the back, you can invade someone's space and give them a hug, maybe. But it's once we know the other thing that we talk about a lot is making connections and relationships, right? Once you dig in and know people a little bit better, then you can go in for that lean for the hug, or nope, I'm not going to go there with this person. Okay. Now, but the other thing, like quality time. Ooh, am I thankful for quality time? Because my wife, she perceives appreciation through quality time and not quantity. If it was quantity of time, I would have been toast long ago, right? Because as the high school band director, there was not many weeks where I was home in the waking hours while she was awake. I spent way more. That's where you hear people talk about this as my work spouse or my work partner or whatever. Because the reality is, your kids spend more time with their music teachers than they do you sometimes, and so was the case for me. And so I was thankful because it wasn't quantity of time, it was quality of time. And so we were sharing in preparation for this time of year. There was a couple of years where I just like hit the wall. I was done. I was toast. I was out for the count. And it happened 2 years in a row, almost to the same day of October. And we finally said, okay, wait a minute. This isn't working. My body needs some recovery time. So we decided that our staff was going to make sure that we programmed in on the calendar, plugged in. We're going to buy plane tickets, put down a deposit on a room somewhere out of town, go away at sometime at the end of September, early October, and be intentional in that. And it turned out to be a win-win because I got rested. I got to take my mind away. I got time to think about things for which to be grateful and thankful. And I got to spend some quality time with Pamela in that time of year, right? So while it doesn't always probably hit every checkbox that we need to be calendaring our quality time with our significant others, it's better than not having it, right? So when we think about this list, maybe with quality time, maybe that just means we're going to take our loading crews that have been rah 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 and all the time and doing the old whatever and spending time. Maybe that just means they would see us being appreciative of them if we took them to Waffle House one Saturday morning before the gig. And that way we get a chance to audiate appreciation. Okay, that checks off two boxes: quality time and words of affirmation, right? I may not know everybody on the loading crew team if you're the chair, if you're the director of operations or something, but you want to appreciate your team, you may not know everybody well enough. So, if you bring them a little gift card and you go to Waffle House and you all hang out and spend some quality time, and then you say some words of affirmation, and then you leave with some high fives, boom, baby, you've kicked off 4 of the 5, right? And so that's the key of knowing that we all have different ways. So the better we get to know people, the more we can hone in. But in my example I just gave you, that's an example of, I may not know everybody on the crew well enough to know what their language is. So I just need to be intentional and setting up opportunities where I'm covering multiple things throughout the course of the season, right? Because not everybody's going to need the same thing, or it's not going to be as meaningful just to do one blanket. Well, we went to Waffle House. I told you I appreciated you. Check, I'm done. No, I mean, we want to have that event, right? But it's kind of like in our relationships too, as individuals, right? Just because you got some big old pat on the back by the boss 6 months ago doesn't mean it wouldn't feel really good to get another confirmation, another checkup going, hey, good job, way to go, right? So when we're volunteers, maybe we need those moments with a little closer repetition. TJ, any thoughts about that before I kick into the next kind of component on that?
I think, and I think you used the phrase either earlier or as we were speaking, but it's intentional. We need to be intentional about what it is that we're doing. And yeah, the 5 love languages is absolutely something that covers pretty much every base. But the challenge is knowing what other people's preference or language is, and Yes, you've covered pretty much everything that is the challenge that we have in trying to show that gratitude to the people that we might not know very well. But at the same point, it's those things as we do them and are more intentional, we start to learn.
Yeah. And yeah, it's what's interesting to me about this, it's kind of like the communication thing I talked about. I bet most of you watching today would find yourself falling in this category. You tend to send out information to your booster team via the method that you prefer to receive information, right? We tend to be singular in our communication. If I like email, I typically send out email. If I like to talk on the phone, I call people, right? And the same is true in this discussion.
Yeah.
If your language is to receive gifts, you probably buy little things here along the way and tell everybody, but then you don't realize that, well, there's 4 other categories. So then if everybody's on your crew that you're supposed to be showing appreciation for is boom, you're simpatica, we all be the same, we all be in the same language, then it's great, it's golden, but not likely, right?
Yeah.
So the key is to be intentional. That's a great point, TJ. And then to make sure that we're just being intentional and finding ways to cover as many bases as possible with frequency. That way we have a higher probability of the people on the receiving end receiving the message, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
I think to me, that's the key to that discussion. So there's lots of different ways we can do that and ways to show appreciation, kind of thinking about it in a paying it forward way, right? Sometimes it's just paying attention, like and being focused. Maybe it's just saying thank you. The thing I would say, there are casual appreciation and there's an intentional. Okay. I think making it part of our mindset that we always say thank you, we're always expressing appreciation with frequency and maybe every interaction is powerful over time. But we also need to be careful. What I don't mean by just say thank you means a casual interaction is sufficient. Okay. So for me as a teacher, let's if I'm walking down the hallway Main Street going down to the teacher workroom where my mailbox is, and I happen to see the principal coming down the hall and he goes, "Hey V, the band was great on Friday night." I appreciate it. It makes me feel good, but I don't really know how authentic that was versus how was it just a casual moment. And so when I get a note from a department chair saying, "Wow, the kids were fantastic. I appreciate all the extra hard work you put in to providing that experience for kids." That means a lot, right? And it means a lot because it's specific. It's detailed. It means they're thinking about it, they're paying attention. So if I, as the director, or you, as the board member, send a specific note that says, "I appreciate the committee's work. Saturday was successful because of these 3 things that you facilitated and provided." That's meaningful. That's powerful. So we need to do both, though. I think having that mindset of thanksgiving and gratitude and just saying, "Hey, thanks for this. Hey, thanks for being here. Hey, we appreciate your help tonight. We couldn't have done it without you." That's powerful over the longevity of time, but we also need those intentionalities. And kind of going with that is sometimes we need to just be quiet and listen empathetically, because a lot of our interactions with our booster clubs, when they tend to be on that boat, or is that just my school? Just wondering. Okay. So, sometimes all they really need to feel appreciated or valued is for us to be listening empathetically and hear their voice in that moment. Okay. Being available for people. Okay. There were 6 people on my board that any moment they walked in, no matter how I perceived how inconvenient or inappropriate time or whatever, there were 6 officers on my board that the moment they requested my attention, if they showed up at my door and knocked on the office during the middle of the day, whatever, I was available to them because they were my extension. They were my arm of getting things done on behalf of the students. So for your team, if they're volunteering and it's Sunday night and you're making lunches for the kids and you're working on whatever, but that's the moment they're in booster mode, be available. appreciate them for their time. And that's difficult, but that's part of being a positive leader with a mindset of gratitude and empowering our team. Make small sacrifices now and again. Okay. Maybe it's sharing an article that you would be of common interest to them because you've connected and they like to do woodworking and crafting and whatever. And something comes across your Facebook feed. It's like, why in the devil is this on my thing? But hey, TJ might like that. He might think that's cool. I'm going to save it and send it to him. That's a connection moment. That just helps them know that, hey, I'm with you. We're in this together, kind of thing. Um, notice specific actions. That goes back to what I was saying about the notes. Pay attention, notice different interactions they may be making with kids if they're chaperoning. They may be helping another person on the team and their committee and being mindful that they're stressed and what they do to help the situation and decompress it, right? Just smile and make eye contact. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. One thing I know for sure, every person that you come into contact with, that you interact with in your daily walk, every single person is going through stuff from their perspective. It might not be as big a stuff as yours, but to them it is. Have you ever experienced any kind of minor surgery when it's yours? No. I gotta have a medical something. It's a big deal, baby. I don't care if it's day surgery, outpatient, minor. It's not minor if it's me. Well, that's kind of where we all are, right? And so it's important for us to make sure that we're making eye contact, that we're being empathetic and we're listening, and that you just never know how important to be seen, even a brief contact with eye and a smile in a supportive moment, how that might be the tipping point, breaking point. Or if we walk by them and don't notice, that might be the breaking point on the other side. So those are opportunities that we have to help our volunteers. Maybe it's you're crafty. It doesn't cost you anything, but to make a little something and say, hey, just want to say I appreciate it. Or I was thinking about this and thought you might like it. Or maybe it's like engaging in something that that they like to do. Going back to that quality time thing. All right. If they all go and hang out at Waffle House, like we call it Awful House at my house, I'm just saying. But if that's where everybody goes, rah, 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 and they like that, and that's kind of the Saturday morning hangout, then as the director, I'm going to go to Waffle House because I know that's an activity they enjoy. If it means we're going to go have a pickleball game at the end of October to celebrate because they're all been a bunch of folks that are into pickleball now, then we're going to go do that as a team, as a whatever, to go celebrate and have fun together as appreciation. Okay. Do something or buy something that will fix their stress. How about that? Let me take something off your plate. Okay. Some people just like go to town on photos, right? You know who they are in social media. They're popping up a picture and a selfie and a selfie and a selfie, right? So if you take some photos along the journey of their kid doing something cool or your team working on stuff, sometimes it's just sending them a couple of photos and going, hey, really appreciate the opportunity to work with you this weekend. That's a way for people to feel appreciated. Okay. Maybe it's that you make a gratitude list. I call it the gratitude 10 list. And you come up with 10 specific things. And when you get to your banquet, put that little note in an envelope. And when you get to your banquet, just put their name on it and leave it for them. And it's your gratitude 10 list. I'm thankful for these 10 things. Can you imagine how meaningful that would be for you if you got one of those as a volunteer? Maybe it's you, someone's parent passed away, or maybe something happened. You just want to donate because you know that they're passionate about, or maybe they've had some dementia in their family and they've been stressed on that. Maybe you just make even a small donation. Maybe it's just $10 to Alzheimer's research. That's a way to express meaningful appreciation about something they care about. Maybe it's social shout outs. TJ's got something to show us about something about that in just a second. Appreciation party. Maybe that's what we kind of a different way to talk about it. Shine a spotlight on something behind the scenes. Now you have to be careful and know who that is. Like I would do a shout out because my wife likes to do stuff behind the scenes. She's amazing in front of an audience of 500, 1,000 people. She conducts 150 voice choir on Sunday mornings in front of 1,000 people. She's great in that moment, but the rest of the time, she's just happy behind the scenes. And so I might shine a little spotlight on somebody that's happy behind the scenes. They might be a little embarrassed, and you got to know them well enough to know if they're going to freak out because you put the spotlight on it. But sometimes just spotlighting the things. Well, I never knew that. I mean, I bet there are a ton of people in your organization. If your parents get together and sew flags, I bet they don't even know that you make those. So putting some spotlights in moments like that could be a really big deal to people. Okay. And just do random check-ins. Again, that's something I learned from Pamela. She's really great at it. She spends some time in the morning. She'll just send a text. Hey, been thinking about this because she remembered that they were going to go to a doctor. Or their kids are struggling with this, or their kid was really stressed because they're going to make a speech at school or whatever. Just checking in, just a quick, like out of the blue, says I care about you, right? And so, and here's this last one is amazingly difficult. We see it all over in our country, even right now, right? Compromise. Compromise goes a long way in saying, I value you. I feel strongly about this, but I hear you and I see that that matters a lot to you. It's not going to matter how you launch the fundraiser. You want to do it well, but there's probably 4 ways you could do it really well. And just because it's your idea to do it this particular way may not really matter. So if you value their effort, maybe you compromise in that says, I appreciate you. I see that. That's not how I would really want to do it, but I'm open to that. Let's try it. I bet there's a whole ton of more. Those are just some things that I put together to think about in that context. But I love it. TJ, you've worked on some things that you've been thinking and pondering about just in how you want to apply it. Why don't you share some of those ideas with us now?
Yeah. So, David, you and I were talking as we were prepping for this about just that again, showing the gratitude, showing the thanks for the different people that maybe behind the scenes or maybe in front of the scenes. And one of the ideas that we discussed was kind of highlighting a booster of the week. One to help obviously show the gratitude towards those boosters, but also I think there's a little bit of that FOMO that could potentially happen with other boosters. Are like, well, how come I haven't been booster of the week or something like that? That could maybe potentially help draw more folks to be active to get that little shout out.
And I
So there
love
might.
that. I love that picture you're using too, TJ, because that shows some adults together, happy, smiling. There's an unimplied version there of, hey, this could be a good community for me. Hey, I could get some perks out of hanging out and building a community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, one of the things that I'm going to continue working on is doing like a booster of the week and highlighting a person and some of the things that they do for the program. Shashawn in this picture, she's actually on the far right. She actually put together a fantastic video of our trip this past weekend, our band trip this past weekend, and shared it with all the team and with the kids and stuff. But she's also our vice president and responsible for hospitality, as well as putting together all the hospitality that we do for our state championships next weekend. And just a little bit behind the scenes of what she does for the program. And then I bounced off of that idea to another one where sometimes we as parents in the organization may not be familiar with the people around us, especially our board members. And obviously I use myself because I know myself the best. But showing a little kind of meet the board and the different people on the board, so that the other parents who maybe aren't as active or don't know us as individuals have a little bit of an idea of what our role is, with the board, and who our kids are. That's one of the fun things that I've always enjoyed about our bingo nights, especially when we have somebody coming new onto a bingo team, is, oh, who's your student? Because we all relate to, oh, they're those folks. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, great. And we have the conversations about the kids and the program and why we're doing what we're doing. And I think that's such, for bingo, I've always seen that's been just a great connector for the people on the team. And as I mentioned to David, as we were getting fired up, we had bingo this past weekend. We had a band trip, overnight trip for the marching band this past weekend. but we also had bingo. So I had to manage making sure that we had coverage for bingo. Well, we had a team of non-marching band parents who graciously swapped a weekend with one of our other teams that was mainly board members and marching band parents, and we're just again, the willingness for the whole program. Our booster program is for our entire program, and the willingness of the non-marching band parents to step up and say, you know what, we've got that covered. And for me, being responsible for bingo, I want to make sure that I show my gratitude for that team. I've said thank you lots to them as we're prepping for it and making sure that we had the weekend taken care of. But after having them work this past weekend and getting a great feedback from the team and stuff, I want to make sure I thank them again, and also do it publicly at our next board meeting, or whatever else we have coming up. Actually, we have a concert on Thursday. That might be a great opportunity as I talk about trying to get more volunteers for bingo, but also thanking the folks that aren't part of marching band, that are part of the band classes, that do benefit from what the boosters do. Thanking those folks there. So I think that would, for me, again, and we talked about the elevator at the beginning of the session today. David has rubbed off very, very well on me, because I think sometimes I take more from these sessions than I'm able to actually provide to them, which for me is fantastic, and I hope is benefiting our program. So
yeah, those are cool. And you created those in what?
And going off of our session last month, I created those in Canva. They took me probably about 15 to 30 minutes total for both of them. So, using some of the preform templates, changing a couple things here or there. I don't have the paid version, so I had to find some different graphics so I could download them.
Yeah, right.
But again, maybe 15 minutes per flyer. And now that they're made, it's an easier plug and play
the part, right?
Yep, plug and play with the next person. So for our next booster of the week,
30 seconds, you upload a picture, you drop and drag it into the other. You want to pop in a different graphic or change the color slightly. It's so fast once you get that initial element done. That's really cool.
Yep.
Well, I want to give a challenge to everybody before we go. I want you to meet with your sidekick. We've talked about that a lot. Your co-leader in your committee, your team, a small group of 2 or 3 people. I like 3, works better if we can manage it in a timeline. And then strategize. Think about the 5 languages we talked about. And what are some ways within the 5 languages that you could be intentional in expressing gratitude? And then what can we do as a board and within your sphere of influence, whether that's a project team or the full board, what can we do to be intentional in fostering a mindset of gratitude throughout our leadership in our organization? And then just make sure we do that, a little group powwow with 3 folks, a little get together gathering. Let's do that in the next week so that you can have a time to strategize in November, and make sure that before you have your banquet or the end of your season that's coming up, that we're being intentional in that we don't miss that opportunity. That's why we're talking about it today. Obviously, we want to have a mindset of gratitude all year long, but now's the perfect time to get started if you haven't. TJ, any final words for us?
Great challenge. You've given me more homework.
Well, we hope you'll all visit us in the Facebook group, and make sure that if you join the community, you're already there. That's how you're getting to this likely. But if you're coming through us through Facebook, make sure you log into the community and see if there's some other resources that might be meeting your needs from previous episodes that might be right on topic to help eliminate a little bit of stress in your world where we are. And if not, until then, we'll see you next month.